Just see if it goes live. Yeah, and we are live. Yeah, and we are live. All right.
All right.
All right.
All right.
I have to close the tab.
All right. Oh.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you want to get our prompt and stuff?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So we were going to discuss argumentation ethics, and I just asked you what specifically you wanted to argue, and you said basically that aggressions are never justifiable in argumentation because it will always result in a contradiction. And you clarified a performative dialectic contradiction.
Yeah. So the reason why it's a contradiction is because argumentation is like you're demonstrating that you want to solve the dispute non-violently as opposed to violently. So it's the opposite of warring against in the of the dispute. So yeah, that's
yeah. So I mean, this might be quick too because it's kind of a very specific point. So we could even expand the discussion if we finish this part early, if you want to. But I would just say that I don't think engaging in argumentation necessarily implies that you always ought to act in like a rational way, right? That at best you can say it's implying that sometimes you ought to, right?
Yeah, but like conclusions reached in an argument are still true even outside the argument. So during an yeah. So if
sorry,
so you agree that like we during the debate or during the argument you ought not be violent or aggress. So if that's the case,
I mean,
that would always have to apply.
I would agree with that, but I don't think me debating implies that, right? Like me agreeing with that is just my own I guess normative preference for a discussion, but I could engage with you under the premise that I can either debate or do violence against you, right? I could have that as my kind of underlying.
But why don't you just use violence then and be like an animal instead of debating, arguing that you should debate? No, should not argue. That's kind of a contradiction. Argue that you shouldn't argue. Like arguing is necessarily non-violent.
Well, sometimes you might be in a position where you're like, I'd rather not have violence, but if I have to, I will do violence, right?
I mean, yeah, but that's
not precluding
that's
either.
Not an argument. Then it's not an argument if you're using violence.
No, a discussion can have violence, right? I mean,
no. Then it's not a
no, I mean,
an argument or a discussion. Then
you can have. So here you're conflating two things, right? You can have a discussion about violence without that implying that you're going to do violence, right?
Yeah, I mean, can have discussion about it, yes.
Like I could say, like, I don't know, World War II was a justified war or whatever. I could say that without implying like that in this discussion we're having right now, I'm going to use violence against you.
Yeah, I suppose we could we could argue that, but if you're saying that gassing people is okay, gassing innocent people is okay, then that would be a contradiction. If that's
I don't even think that would be right. If I said like shooting a random person is okay, mindless violence is okay, there's no contradiction there because I'm not doing that violence in the discussion. Like I would have to be in the discussion, holding the gun to your head and saying you must agree with me for it to be a contradiction.
Well, the reason it's a contradiction is because during an argument, no, when you're arguing, you are essentially saying that you're not I mean you're arguing for no, you're presupposing that disputes should be solved non-violently and not
No, you're
using
not.
violence. Well, then
You'd
it
only
wouldn't be
be
an
first, but
argument. Like arguments are like you're trying to find the truth or validity when you're arguing. So
well, real quick though. Well,
and
not always,
aggressions would
but
be the
in a
opposite. That
rational,
would be unreasonable if you're aggressing.
I think the best that you could say though is in this discussion, I am looking for a rational outcome, right? This discussion, not you're not doing some universal normative statement just by engaging in a discussion with someone, right? You're just saying like in this moment, I'm agreeing to these procedural rules.
Okay, so like in other debates, then you're going to be unreasonable. That's what you're saying, like not finding the truth. I
Well,
would
no,
say
I'm
that's
saying
I would
that
say that's
yeah,
not an argument if that's
I'm
the
not making a
case.
statement of me performing like this discussion with you right now. Is not this is not implying anything about any other discussion I'm going to do. I may be rational in those. I may engage in force in those. This our dynamic right now doesn't commit me to anything in any other discussion in my life. Just like if I go upstairs and make some food right now, it doesn't commit me to making food all the time, right?
Yeah. I'm just and I don't see the analogy really there.
Like me taking a shower doesn't imply that I ought to take showers every Saturday morning, right?
That's true. But like showering is not like a truth seeking like method, you could say. Like
The
you're
cleanliness seeking method, right?
yeah, and there's reasons to not shower and there's reasons to shower.
Exactly. There's reasons to engage in force and there's reasons to use discussion, right?
There's reasons to use force, yes, in self-defense, but aggression
Well,
is
there you go.
unreasonable. Yeah, if
Well,
you're
aggression's not always unreasonable, right?
sorry, what?
So aggression's not always unreasonable. We could come up with a situation where it'd be reasonable to aggress on someone.
Give me one example where you think you ought
If I
to
was
aggress.
in a like scarcity situation and there was no food for me and someone else was hoarding a bunch of food, I think it would be reasonable for me to aggress on them.
Okay, yeah. So that would be analogous to like if I had a rape disease, and I would die if I didn't rape a woman. So would I be allowed to rape a woman then? Like I would die if I didn't do it.
Well, this is the like weird counterfactual world that doesn't exist, right? That this is like a real situation.
Hypotheticals relate to reality. This not it's not this. I mean, you could imagine that being happening in real life. That is theoretically, I mean, plausible, kind of, sort of.
Well, it's not plausible, but here I'll indulge in it, right? So, in the case of food, you are as a human being entitled to eat food to some degree. You're not entitled to the autonomy of someone else, even if you have a disease, right?
You're not entitled.
You're
to
not entitled to anything.
No, you're not. Except like people not aggressing against you. That's what you're entitled to.
Do you think as the kind of being you are, you're entitled to be able to pursue nutrition?
I mean, yeah. I mean, nobody is allowed to like stop me from doing that if I'm acting peacefully.
Yeah. But if someone's hoarding a bunch of food, they're kind of tacitly stopping you, right?
They aren't stopping
they have
you.
abundance.
No.
They're not. If they have more food than they need and they are not willing to share it with you, are they not tacitly stopping you from pursuing getting food?
I don't actually know what tacitly mean. What's that? Does that
Oh,
mean?
sorry. Like implicitly.
Well, they aren't stopping you really. You can. I mean, you can die. That's an option.
Yeah, but that would be bad for you, right? It would be irrational for you to just
I mean,
die when
some
this person
people.
has
I
more
suppose
food.
some people do want to die. There are suicidal people.
Well, but we're assuming that you don't want to die, right? Like you're a
Uh,
normal, well-adjusted person in the scenario, right? Then here, this is
yeah. I
also
mean, you
getting
could
back to
trade
why
with
it's
the guy.
different.
You could
Than,
trade with the guy maybe if he wants to. He might not want to, but
no, but we already he doesn't want to trade, right? And this is also we're getting to why it's different than the rape disease case because in that case, the
you
only
own your
way
body,
for
right?
you,
You have the right to your own body, right?
no, but I'm showing you the difference, right? Because in that case, the only way for this person to survive is to violate the other person. Where in this food situation, the food hoarder has more than enough food, so they would still have what they need, but you don't, right? So there's a difference in the case. They're not analogous.
I mean, let's say there was just one apple in the world, and there was two starving men, me and you, and you take the apple, then you're depriving me of the opportunity to eat that apple. So that would mean, yeah, yeah, I could aggress upon you and basically, I mean, what do you think about that hypothetical?
Yeah, if it's two starving people, then the scenario changes, right? Because now I'm thinking it's not going to be rational for you to take the apple from the person. It's going to be like, I guess, selfish or ego driven.
Yeah, but that's the same for the guy who wants to take hoard all the resources. That's also ego driven. I don't. It's still analogous. Like
Well, no, but in that scenario,
you own your body. Therefore, rape is not good, and you own the food that you homestead or on border. So
I
they
think
don't
I
have a
think we're
right to
getting a
take
little off
that.
track. So maybe we need to rewind,
Sure.
right? Because I think now we have like three hypotheticals, and I'm not sure what they're exactly doing for the debate anymore. But so let's go back. So my premise was like sometimes it could be reasonable to aggress. Um, I think that point is not super necessary because I think my original point
Like
was a little
how do
more.
you conclude that? How do you conclude that in an argument that like you could aggress? Like what's the justification?
Well, I'm going back because I think the original point was a little more clear and it didn't involve us going into those hypotheticals. So the original point was that me engaging in a discussion, the only thing it commits me to is the protocols of that discussion at that time, right? It doesn't commit me to any like normative standard of future behavior.
Yeah,
Nor does it
like
even commit.
conclusions reached in an argument that necessarily uh, uh, are true outside an argument too, right? Don't you agree?
Well, you're conflating the conclusion with the, I guess, uh, presuppositions that I engage under, right? Like, yeah, the conclusions could be true, but that has nothing to do with what I'm committing myself to.
Um, okay, but let's say we did conclude that that aggressions are not okay during an argument. That would necessarily be true at any time, right? And that
Well,
aggressions.
I feel like you're because now you're getting now you're getting into this idea that so like you're not engaging in argumentative ethics, you're engaging in like a discussion about argumentative ethics, and now your premise is about it's like a meta discussion. So there's not really going to be a contradiction there either, because now we're not justifying force, we're justifying arguing about force, right? So this is we have to make the example like strictly clear.
Okay, I mean, okay, I can redo it in a different way.
Yeah.
I can make an argument there. So like if you're engaged in argumentation, you like presuppose the norms of non-aggression. And if you presuppose the norms of non-aggressions, then arguing against non-aggression would be contradictory. So conclusion would be, if you're engaged in argumentation, then arguing against non-aggression would be contradictory. Would you agree? Well, do you disagree with some of the premises, maybe?
Well, I feel like so the idea. This is not how I understand argumentation ethics. I think the idea is that, like, let's say that I want to justify taxation, right? You're going to say that's force, but you're going to say by engaging with me in a rational discussion, you're assuming the implied premise that you should never use force in a discussion, right? So therefore, by accepting that, then you accept that in all discussions, we should always engage with that same normative, I guess, imperative. And so taxation would not be a valid, like, I guess, premise in an argument because it involves the use of force, right? Would that be an accurate depiction of the argument?
Well, force is not necessarily a bad thing. You can use force in self-defense. So I would
Sure,
more
aggression.
specifically
Sorry.
use the
Yeah.
term aggression.
Yeah, aggression. Yeah, just replace it with aggression.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah. So like when you're arguing, yeah, you're presupposing that you ought not aggress. And if you presuppose that, then arguing against non-aggression would be contradictory. Do you understand?
No, but so I set up a very specific way because I'm trying to show like why it's not contradictory. So if I say like, it's okay, it's justifiable to tax people, right? You're going to say, well, that is aggression, and so since you're committed to the norms of discussion in like a rational debate, you're also committed to some form of rational like exchange. So taxation cannot be part of that input, right? That's what you would say.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So like, yeah, essentially, yeah.
Yeah, cool. So then what I'm saying is there's no contradiction there because in order for it to be a performative contradiction, my actions in that moment would have to be contradicting what I'm saying. So I would have to be making the argument that taxation is good towards you while holding a gun to your head in order for it to be a performative contradiction. It's not a contradiction for me to argue some future use of force or force in some other context. It would only be a performative contradiction if I was threatening you with force during our discussion, right?
No, not really. Like when I would say like when you are arguing, like you are you're like presupposing that like non-aggression to be true, like that you shouldn't use aggressions, like to
For that argument,
like it would be
right?
inconsistent to say like it's just sometimes it's true.
Why?
uh yeah, because when you're arguing, you're presupposing non-aggression, so like
In that argument, you are right. Like, well, I'm talking to you right now. Yeah, I'm presupposing that I
yeah,
shouldn't
but you
aggress
can
on
also
you.
argue in the future, by the way. You can argue in the future, and then you couldn't justify aggressing in the future.
Well, I mean, I don't see like me
Because
defending like
during an argumentation in the future, you are then presupposing the norms of non-aggression as agreed with
yeah, but
when you are arguing. So then you couldn't in that argument justify the aggression that you did. So at least you
Well,
can't.
no. So the only thing see, this is what I keep going back to, though. The only thing I'm presupposing is that I'm going to have a discussion with you right now. That's the only. If I'm presupposing anything, that's
Yeah,
the
and when
only
you have the
thing.
discussion, you are preferring to have discussion peacefully rather than violently and warring with me, right?
I'm saying that I'm not going to aggress on you right now in this conversation. Yeah, that doesn't mean that I like Lego can't beat a pounding across the street. That has nothing to do with the parameters of my discussion.
Yeah, but Lego is not in the discussion right now. You are in the
No,
discussion, or
I'm
the
just using
one.
him as an example. I'm just using him as an
Okay.
example, right? Yeah.
If so you're saying if yeah, he could. I mean, no, like you can't, like, if you accept the definition you gave, or not the definition but the conclusion you made, like the norms of non-aggressions only apply during an argument, then you couldn't justify any previous aggressions that you have made,
I'm not
because
saying
you
the
are
norms only
currently.
apply. I'm saying that's the only thing I can presuppose about what I'm doing, right? Like if I looked at our behavior, that's the only thing I could extrapolate from that, is that we agreed to have a discussion. Nothing more about our normative like preferences or like the
Yeah, but
universalizability of
it
our.
was that simple, then you could just beat me in the head, right? You could just kill me, or whatever. Then yeah, then it doesn't. Then nothing really matters. You could just say nonsense, and everything could be an argument, really. It's
Well,
not.
no, I agreed that in this discussion, I am going to have a rational discussion with you. That's the only thing you can extrapolate from what I'm doing.
Yeah,
Though.
rational, right? Yeah, and
Yeah.
the reason why it's rational is reason why it is rational is because it is an argument. Arguments are rational, and truth seeking, right? That means that it's rational.
Well, yeah, I'm
So
gonna give, for the sake of the discussion, I'll agree, because we're talking about like a rational discourse. Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, you could have like verbal disputes that are not rational too, but I guess we're gonna preclude them for the sake of this discussion, right?
yeah, sure. But
Okay. Yeah. So like if we're engaged in like some discourse with some like with the goal of coming to some common conclusion, then we're agreeing to not use force during that in general, right?
yeah, and that accounts for all rational, like arguments, like rational dispute resolutions, or like arguments. I mean, right?
Um, I mean,
Where you're seeking truth.
insofar, I would say I want to grant you this because I think this might be true to an extent. Anytime that you are engaged in what you would consider a rational discussion, I think in that moment you are engaged in it. Insofar as you are engaged in a rational discussion, you're committed to not using force during that discussion. I don't think
Yeah, but
that
you can also
means
not
that you're
justify. You
committing.
can also not justify previous aggressions either, because you're like your performance of arguing is telling me that you recognize the norm of non-aggression.
Well,
At least during the argument, and that would also mean that you
right.
couldn't contradict it by saying, "Oh yeah, like the taxation I did on you, that's okay, like, because that's an aggression." You can't justify that without contradicting yourself in that case.
Well, but in the case of taxes, there's like it's a different justificatory context, right? Like so in this debate, I agree to the terms because I want to engage in the debate. I enjoy the discussion. I think it's fruitful for people to have discussions, things like that. So I do engage in this debate from a rational perspective because it's fulfilling in some way. That doesn't mean that I have some like normative universal principle to always engage rationally.
Yeah, but that's not necessary, because when you are like trying to justify an aggression that you have done previously, you're already accepting the terms of non-aggression. So through you trying to justify that would just mean a contradiction, like non-aggression.
Well, generally when we no, but I think that's problematic too, because generally if we're trying to justify an aggression, what we're doing is trying to show that it wasn't an aggression, basically, right? So aggressions kind of
I
has
mean, then sure, that's fine. Like we could argue if taxations are aggressions or not, but like if we determine during an argumentation that it is an aggression, you can't justify it. You can't justify it because we are presupposing the terms of non-aggression, the norm.
well,
I mean,
because this I didn't even think about this point before, but now I'm thinking about it. The way you're using aggression is kind of just saying like unjustified force, right?
aggression is initiation of conflict. Conflict, as in
But you're saying
contradictory
it's different
use
than.
of scarce means.
But you're saying it's different than force. You're saying force is like it's neutral, I guess. It could be justified or unjustified.
Yeah, definitely.
So then aggression would just be unjustified use of force, right?
True.
So if I'm engaged in trying to justify the use of aggression, you see how it's like it's built in. That's going to be a contradiction because you've already made it unjustified.
Then you could say force, then, right? You could say force,
Yeah.
like argue whether it is an aggression or it isn't an aggression.
See, but now we've lost the point of now we don't need argumentation ethics, right? Because we can just justify force or not justify it.
What do you mean?
I mean, there's no contradiction because once we strip off the negative connotation from aggression and make it force, and we just say, oh, you're trying to justify the force you use, right, through taxation. Now you're not engaged in a performative contradiction because you're not trying to justify something that we've already defined as unjustifiable.
Yeah, but like we can argue whether it is an aggression or not. Like, but if you determine if that force is an aggression, then you would be dialectically contradicting yourself or performatively contradicting yourself, proposing that, or that your taxation was good, right, or justified. I mean, good.
Sorry, could you repeat the last thing you said?
You couldn't justify that an aggression is basically the same as I said all the time. I guess it would be a dialectical or performative contradiction.
For saying that. Well, but now once we stripped it of the aggression and the negative connotation, now it makes sense, though, right? There's no. Even if we ignore every other point I made earlier, which I don't think we should, but let's do it for right now. Now I think this new point kind of defeats it on another level because we're saying, I think taxation is justified force. There would be no contradiction in me doing that because I think it's a justified use of force, right?
Okay, sure. But if we conclude it is an aggression, if we conclude that in an argument, then you would have to concede your position if you want to be consistent or not, and not contradict yourself.
Yeah, if we were to conclude that, yes. But here's the thing: that goes for any discussion, right? Any conclusion.
Oh yeah,
so
sure.
It's like there's
then I guess there's no debate then because you agree with argumentation ethics.
No, I don't, because you're not doing it at that point, right? If you're just saying like, if I prove that this specific thing is unjustified force through a rational argument, that's not argumentation ethics. That's just you giving a good proof, right? There's nothing special about it. You would have made a good argument.
I mean, I don't see how you don't agree with argumentation ethics there. It seems like
That's what I've been debating. That's what I've been debating the whole hour
if
or
it's
half hour.
you agree that if we determine it is an aggression, then you can't justify it without contradicting yourself. That is essentially argumentation ethics.
Well, I said the one thing I would agree where something akin to argumentation ethics would be the case was if we were in a discussion and I was holding a gun to your head during the discussion. That's the only time I would think there would be a contradiction, right? But any other time you can justify force rationally because the point is that you're trying to show that it's not aggression. Because as you defined it, aggression is just unjustified use of force. So if I'm trying to justify it, there's no contradiction to be had.
There's no contradiction in just trying to justify force, but it's a contradiction to try to justify aggression, which is
well, yeah, but that's because of how you define aggression. It's unjustified use of force, right? But if I think taxation is justified and I try to defend taxation, I'm not engaged in anything contradictory because I think it's justified. So I don't think it's aggression.
Unless you're saying that it is an aggression and it also is justified, then you would be contradicting yourself. Because of
then you'd be saying this unjustified thing is justified. Yeah, that would be a contradiction, but that's like trivial, right?
Yeah, that I mean you agree though. You agree that you agree that you can't justify aggressions. That's the essence of argumentation ethics. It is.
Well, no, I think you can justify force, and as long as you're not just defining, because if you're defining aggression as unjustified use of force, I don't think you can justify anything that's unjustified. So it's like trivially true. But if you're saying like taxation is by definition aggression, and so whenever you try to defend taxation, you're committing a performative contradiction. I don't agree to that, right? Because I don't think that taxation is unjustified use of force. So I wouldn't call it aggression by your definition. Although,
well, it is it is an initiation of conflict. They are taking money or coercing you to give them your money, which is just theft. So yeah, sorry.
We can even move on to that discussion, but I mean, just the way that you're talking about discourse right now is just you're using the things in one way and then trying to put them into a different context, right? You're trying to say, oh, so you agree that you shouldn't do aggression in this context, but then you're trying to put this into every context.
Yeah, I mean, like if you are in the future and the taxation has already been done, or an aggression instead, let's say aggression instead, you can't justify that aggression, that initiation of conflict during that argumentation, because during that argumentation you are presupposing the norms of non-aggression, as we have agreed to already here. So
well, I'm just saying that, like, yeah, so if you're gonna like you define aggression as unjustified for use of force, and then you're gonna define
I define aggression as initiation of conflict, and conflict.
Well, but that's problematic.
Sorry.
Okay, but that's problematic, right? Because like conflict doesn't imply force all the time, right? Like me and you have a conflict right now because we disagree.
It does. Like when I say conflict, I mean the definition of conflict that I'm using is contradictory use of over scarce means. I can give an example. Like if I have the spoon and I want to use it for eating, then an aggressor, an initiator of a conflict would be, let's say Bob takes it and he wants to use it to eat for himself something else, then he would be initiating a conflict, because both actions can't occur simultaneously. I can't.
But you're saying that that's unjustified use of force, right?
I would say that is that is an unjustified use of force, but like I'm not defining aggression as unjustified per se, but it is unjustified. It is a quality of aggression.
Can you ever justify aggression?
Yeah, you can't. And the only way
you can
the only way you can justify something is during an argument. So yeah, you can't justify it because it implies non-aggression while you're arguing.
Yeah, so you see why this is circular?
No,
because you've defined it as unjustified use of force. So therefore,
no, I didn't.
Anytime...
I didn't define it as unjustified.
You just did. Can you ever justify aggression?
You can't, because to justify something means you have to do it in an argument.
So it's
and we previously agreed that arguments presuppose the norms of non-aggression.
You can justify force, though, right?
You can justify force, yeah, all you want. You can try, and sometimes it is justified.
Yeah, so in an argument, I could justify force, but since aggression's unjustified use of force, I can't justify it by definition.
Exactly. So we agree. I mean, the debate is over, basically. We're going in circles there.
I mean, we're not agreeing because you're not. I don't think you're understanding the implication of that, right? Because if you're using circular reasoning, so you're saying something that's like trivially true, but it like doesn't get us anywhere. Like we can apply this to an argument.
Yeah, it is trivially true. Like that's the it is that simple, really.
But we can't apply this to anything, right? Because you're saying like so if I believe taxation is not aggression, then I can justify its use in a conversation without contradicting myself. You agree with that, right?
You can try to justify it, but I would come up with my own reasons why it isn't justified, and argumentation
that's just a normal discussion.
Argumentation is truth seeking, so I mean, unless you have a good counter argument, you have to accept that. So but so do you see what's happening though, right? Because you just accepted that we don't need argumentation ethics. Because if I can give a discussion about taxation and justify it, or try to justify it, then I'm not engaged in a contradiction. So why do we need argumentation ethics? What do you mean? I mean, it's the reason why argumentation ethics is useful is because you can it proves the non-aggression principle. That's why it's useful. Like you can't aggress, and you seem to agree with it. Like and yet you're still confused. So. I mean,
no, I'm not confused. I'm saying like if we can still have a conversation about taxation, right, without referring to it because you've agreed that sometimes force can be justified, then what is the argumentation ethics doing for us in that conversation?
Okay, so you think like the fact that you can use force justly in some cases, that contradicts the non-aggression principle. Is that what you're saying?
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that if I am able to rationally justify the use of force in a conversation, what is the argumentation ethics doing for us?
It's showing that you can't ever justify aggressions. Not force, it's aggressions, which is more specific type of force.
Well, yeah, it's unjustified use of force, right? So it's like trivial that
it is. Yeah, it is a type of. I mean, it is unjustified, justifiable. Yeah, and that's because of argumentation, not because of the definition per se. Do you understand?
Well, it's definitional in that, like, you would never have aggression that would be justified.
Yeah, you can't have an aggression that is justified. Yeah.
There you go. So
you just seem like you're mad that it's that simple.
Essential to it, right? It is necessary for it to be unjustified.
Yeah, because you're presupposing the norms of non-aggression during an argument.
That's unjustified, right?
Sorry, what?
If something is always the case for something, it's definitional.
I well, I already gave you the definition and like the steps, like really.
Yeah, but I'm giving you like a better one based on what you're saying. You're saying it's unjustified use of force.
I mean, you can define it as that, but I didn't define it as that. That's just an implication from the original definition.
But you agree. But yeah, it's an implication, right? So if by implication that means that it follows necessarily from the definition.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's part
that's
of the
a problem, you say?
The problem is that that's like, I guess, tautological or circular reasoning. Like it's not it's not doing anything.
It's proving that
aggressions
trivial. Are never justifiable. That's what it does. Really? Yeah. I mean,
well, yeah, because like if I said like I don't know, your concept of ownership as an ANCAP is aggression, right? And then you're like, well, I'm going to defend my position. I was like, you can't, because I have argumentation ethics, and by you trying to defend your position, you're engaging in a performative contradiction, right? Doesn't that seem problematic?
Yeah. Sorry, could you repeat that? I guess.
If I said your concept of ownership is definitionally aggression, and so when you try to defend it,
that's not the case.
Well, let me finish though. Let me finish though. Well, if I this is a hypothetical. If I define your concept of ownership as aggression, and then you try to engage in a discourse with me about it, and I said, hold your horses, chill out. You need to think about this for a second, man, because you're engaging in a performative contradiction right now. You, sir, are trying to justify aggression. That is a performative contradiction.
Yeah.
So you cannot do that. You are.
I mean, you can do it. You can do it, but you would be contradicting yourself. Like people say erroneous things all the time. You can say that 1 + 1 = 3. That doesn't mean it is the case.
So, do you see why that's problematic, though, when I apply it to your theory? If I say your view of property is aggression, and then I use argumentation ethics to try to shut down any conversation about it, you would be like, that's not fair, because what would you say?
Like, I would argue, I would have a dispute with you, like, argumentatively, over whether
but
it is an aggression
or performative contradiction, because yours is aggression.
Yeah, just because you say something doesn't mean it is the case.
Just because you're engaged in aggression, right? So how are you going to defend that?
What do you mean?
Can't.
What do you mean?
You can't justify it. Your view of property implies aggression, and so you cannot justify it ever in the conversation. There's no way you can even engage in the conversation without contradicting yourself.
Because you said that my view of property rights implies aggression or something. Is that what you're saying?
There you go.
Yeah, but again, just because you say something doesn't mean it is the case.
There you go, right? So, now apply that to the other side.
What other side?
Like the other side of the debate for you.
That taxation is aggression? That taxation is an aggression? Like,
well, you define it as an aggression, right? Like if you were to come in a conversation with me,
I don't define it as an aggression. I say it is an aggression, and I can explain to you why it is an aggression. That doesn't mean it is an aggression, just me saying it. You understand?
So you don't think it's necessarily an aggression then?
That's not what I'm saying, dude.
No, but here's what I'm saying is that if you don't think taxation necessarily is an aggression, but you could prove that's an aggression, right? Then you're saying that if I go into the debate thinking that taxation is not unjustifiable, there's no contradiction to be had. We're just having a normal debate over whether something's bad or
not
not.
yet. I suppose. Like if
That's
you're
just
you
normal.
you're mistaken, but that I mean, you're not contradicting yourself really. I'd say like well you are, but you like during an argumentation, there's always at least one wrong party. So yeah, and contradictions
One of
are
us is wrong.
Yeah, one of
it'd
at
be
least
me or you, right?
Yeah.
All right, so maybe we can. I mean, if you want to discuss a little longer, maybe we could dip into the taxation arguments then.
Sure.
And table the argumentative ethics.
What's your proof that it's not an aggression?
Well, hold on. I mean, I'll just say that I think taxation is a justified, I guess, transfer of money from one party to another.
How is it justified?
It's justified because you as a human being are, or like, sorry, I want to be a little more careful with my words. You as a citizen of a, like, I guess, city, state, municipality, country are brought up, raised, engaged in consistently, and use the resources of that system, and so it is justified for you to have to pay those back.
Yeah, so you're saying like just because I live in a certain area, I have it's my duty to pay the taxes. Is that what you're saying?
Not just that you live in the certain area, but that you are engaged in that community in some way, right? Like you work there, or you.
I mean, sure, the Jews were engaged in the society of Germany during just before World War II, right? Or during World War II.
I'm not sure how that's analogous to what we're talking about, though. I'm not defending the Holocaust. I'm defending taxation.
Yeah, but I'm doing Holocaust reduction.
Yeah, but they're not analogous. Like for you to do the reductio, it would have to be analogous, right?
Yeah, I mean, there are citizens, and the laws of Germany says that the Jews must be guests, so they must be guests, right? Just like if the taxation codes say that you have to pay this much money, then you have to pay this much money, right?
No, those are two entirely different things, right? Like one is creating a consequence for a certain group of people based on their race. The other is transferring money for services rendered.
Okay, so what makes it different? Really, like what makes it okay?
I just said.
Okay? What makes this thing okay, but that other thing not okay? Really?
Because you get something out of taxes.
I mean, the Germans could maybe some of them could get some pleasure, I guess, from the gassings, I suppose. Right. And if you're very rich, you're not getting shit from taxes if they're taxing you. They're giving it to poor people who don't work.
You don't think rich people get anything out of taxation? Are you serious?
No. I mean, some rich people. I mean, a lot of like Elon Musk gets a lot of subsidies and bullcrap and shit. I'm not for that. But
what about like companies? You don't think they use roads, mail? What? Dude?
What
you don't think companies use roads? They don't use mail. They don't use trash services. They don't use water.
All
services.
Of those are possible to make in a free market. I don't see any reason why they can't be.
Well, they could be, right? They could pay for a lot of these services by themselves, but they don't. They use the government explicitly.
Yeah, because the government monopolizes these.
Well, not all of those, right? Like,
not all
example,
of those,
Amazon,
but like, I mean,
Amazon uses the postal service because it's like cheaper and has more access sometimes, right?
Okay, I mean, what's the
Oh, I was just countering your point because you said rich people don't get anything out of taxes, but they do. They get a lot out of it. In fact, I'd
I
say
don't
probably
disagree
right
with
now they
that, but
get more
like
out of it than
a
poor people.
certain rich person who doesn't, in this case, doesn't get, like, I mean, there are people who don't get shit from taxes, like who just get
Yeah, there
taxed
are
and
some
don't.
people that,
Yeah. And
well, they get things.
just because you were given something doesn't mean that you owe them something back. That would be very retarded. If somebody gave you a Christmas present, and that doesn't mean you have to give them money afterwards. They already
Yeah,
had a title transfer.
this is
They
also
gave it to you.
yeah. So this is also not analogous, right? Because I'm not saying it's a gift. We have a process called a government, and we elect people every year. There's other ways that you could organize it, but um, so in this process, right, you are able to elect people to represent your interests and change those laws if you don't like them.
Yeah, I mean,
So not that you're just being
Hitler
gifted
was
something,
elected.
you are actively
Hitler
given
was elected.
participation in the system as well.
Hitler was elected, though. Does that mean it's justified?
Okay. But Hitler has nothing to do with this, right?
He was democratically elected. With in the government. So is everything that he proposed and did, is that justified?
Well, no. Not everything a state does is justified. I'm only defending taxation. I'm not talking about other things they do.
So can you? So what's the justification?
Like if a state,
what's the
say like the
justification
state,
for taxing people though?
well, I've already given it, but here's the thing. So you can't say like, oh, this random state murdered an innocent civilian. They're justified? No, because they're doing something that's illegal or immoral, right? Like, so
Yeah,
of course it's not
do
going
you
to be
agree that
justified.
theft is immoral?
No, listen. You're trying to say
Okay.
in this situation, the government's doing something that's immoral. So I'm going to say that everything the government does is immoral. That doesn't follow, right? Just because Hitler did something bad doesn't mean that every state, everything they do is bad.
I mean, they're for them to survive, they have to steal. And sometimes they have to start wars, pointless wars. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
states can
only
do bad things just
sustained.
like individuals can,
It's
right?
only sustained through aggression. What do you say, individuals? What do you mean? What do you say?
I don't think it's only sustained through aggression. It's sustained through taxation and through a democratic process.
Yeah, but do you think theft is okay?
Definitionally, theft is not okay, right? That's unjustified taking of something, definitionally.
Exactly. And what makes taxation justified in that case?
Because you get services rendered and you have a
Yeah,
process.
okay. So like if I like steal like steal like your car and then give you back like a couple $100, does that mean that me stealing the car is justified?
In this case, no, because the car was someone else's before yours, but you came after the government that you're part of, right? You're a citizen of it. You came after it. So you're the one stealing.
What? I mean, yeah.
You were born in the state existed before you did. So you're the one that's taking their resources and they're being generous by
the fuck
taxing you for using them, right?
I mean, okay, let's say this guy who stole my car is twice as old as me. Does that make it okay if he just give me back some money afterwards? If he takes my car and just give me a couple $100 afterwards?
No, this is disanalogous, right?
He's older than
you're
me,
the one
and he came before me.
No, you're the state owns the resources before you. You were born. You start using them immediately when you're born, and then they're generously saying, "We're just going to take a little bit of your money if you have enough. We don't always even take your money in order to support you because we know you're a drain on our resources, but we need some stuff back, right?" That would be the analogy.
Like I don't like it's
which existed first? The
How
state
is it not
that you live
theft?
in, or
How is
you?
it not theft? Like you earn
I'm
that
asking
money,
you.
and then they're coercing you to give up some of that money.
No,
It's
you're trying to
it's a
coerce them
protection
to provide
racket.
you with free stuff. You're the one that's trying to coerce the state to provide you with free things, right?
No. Uh, somebody giving me
You're taking the
present.
state's
Somebody
resources.
giving me presents does not imply that
They're
I'm.
not giving you presents. They're
That's
they're
what you're saying, though.
generously
You're
giving you a
saying that they give
discount
us
on the
these
services
roads and
vendor.
blah blah blah, and therefore that then I have to give up some of my money. Uh, like it's
No,
theft,
the state
regardless of how
the
you
state
twist it.
homesteaded the land that you're on.
No, they
made
did
it they
not. They did
improved the
not homestead
resources.
the land. No, no, not at
It's
all.
all homestead.
Private
Yeah,
individuals
looks like
homesteaded the
you're in
land.
a home right now.
Are you saying
Who
like
do you think made that?
middle of Siberia is homesteaded by Russia or Putin? Like,
If yeah, there's
seriously?
prisons there, man. The land is
No,
made
no, no. Like in the
useful
middle of a
by the state.
forest. Nobody lives in that
How do you think?
forest.
How do you get to Siberia? They built trains there. They homesteaded it.
Okay, but let's say a specific place in Siberia where there are no people for many square miles. Did they homestead that
The state
place?
provides access to it, and they provide a
No,
way of disputing claims within that region, right?
they don't
So they'll
provide
let you.
anyone access. They are depriving people of access because of like
No, they're not.
immigration laws. Yeah, they are.
No, they're not.
Not all,
They
not
will
all
allow
people,
you.
but
They will allow you to buy land. The state doesn't let you buy land. Where are they depriving
it has a
access to?
faulty. It has a faulty like what do you call property rights system. It's based on claims, like saying, "Oh yeah, I say I own this piece of land," instead of actually homesteading it or embordering it.
So let's say that your solution. Let's say you're right. We're gonna assume you're right. What would the solution be? Do you think we should just homestead everything again?
Yeah, like let the free market
You think,
do its thing. That's the magic.
like, do you think like we should have like a homestead day, and then everyone goes out and claims whatever land they can find and improve on?
Yeah, I
Would
mean,
that be your solution?
yeah. I mean, people organize themselves very efficiently, most efficiently actually, because they are doing they are doing what they want to do, trading what they want to do, and yeah. So like instead of like having a parasite as a middleman extracting wealth all the time and being really inefficient, causing inefficiency everywhere. So
I guess I'm just asking though, like, would you want us to like get rid of the state and have a homestead day where we all go out and claim new lands?
homestead day? What do you mean?
Or
You don't
like,
have to
well, if
homestead.
you're saying that you're saying the only valid way of claiming property is like through some physical act like homesteading, right?
Homesteading or embordering, yes.
Yeah. So then the implication I would take from that is that we ought to get rid of all the current property because it's all gathered illegitimately, and we need to go out and homestead again.
Some of
right?
it is no, not necessarily. No, like if you let's say you own a plot of land, like own in the statist term, statist way that you like have claimed it and such. You own the stuff, the possessions that are yeah, you have homesteaded or embroidered in that plot of land, not the, let's say, random tree that you haven't even touched on your plot of land. You don't own that.
No, but I'm saying that all of the land that people are on was gotten illegitimately, right?
No, it is not.
Do you think that if I had a series of actions and the first one was unjustified, then every other like transfer of that property would also be unjustified, right?
No, I wouldn't. No, when you
Okay.
do the transfer, That's not more aggression. Like if let's say you stole, let's say you stole a statue from me or something, and you trade it for money. That guy you stole, me and you, who you stole the statue from, I'm not owed the specifics. I wouldn't say, at least. I wouldn't be owed that specific statue. I would be owed a new identical statue to that statue that you give me.
Wait. So you're saying like if Lego took $100 from me and then he bought a lamp from you with the $100, you're not saying that I would be entitled to compensation and you ought not to have that $100, right?
Like
Is that what you're saying?
I mean, if you steal something from me and then you trade it with somebody else, you still owe them exactly what you stole them. Something which is identical to that.
Yeah, and your transaction
and
wouldn't
also like retribution, I suppose, like some extra
So
because
you
of the inconvenience that you caused.
so you don't think there'd be an unjust distribution here? That the fact that you have $100 that you got from someone that stole it, that was not their money, you don't think that distribution would be unjust?
No, like any trade that is voluntary, it's never unjust to do a trade. What's unjust is to
It's
do
never.
theft, and you owe that person you stole from something that is identical to which you
I'm not saying
stole.
that you did anything immoral by trading with Lego in that case. I'm saying that you ought not have the $100 though.
No, you ought to have that $100. You got that non-violently.
I think that you should get your lamp back and Lego should give the $100 back to me. That would be the ideal resolution, right? Or you really think that you should just keep the $100 that was bought with stolen money?
I mean, I might be somewhat wrong. I'm not super good at. I'm not super well versed in everything property theory and such, but that's my understanding at
Well,
least. I don't see a contradiction though. So
just use your own opinion though, because I'm
yeah,
just asking.
that is my opinion and my understanding
Okay.
too.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we'll agree to disagree there, I guess. But yeah, I don't know where else to go with that.
we can end the debate now if you wish.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Do you want to like shout yourself out and such?
Sure. I mean, I'm NietzscheGuevara. I have a YouTube channel with my friend Varsity Bookworm. We do a podcast about different philosophical and religious topics, mostly like kind of outside stuff. It's called Condemned Logic, so you can check that out if you're interested in anything I was saying. And I had a great time discussing with you.
Oh, thank you. Have a nice weekend still.
Yeah, you too, man.
Bye.